Hello and welcome again to Backpage. I'm Jody C. and today we're visiting with Paula May about her book and her life. But the book is called Wisdom from the Heart. So welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Jody.
You know, there's always a story behind the story.
Yes.
And so tell me how this book came into being for you. You were a nurse for a long time.
Yes, I was a practicing RN, running hospitals and so on, but also had a lot of interaction with people when they were so very, very ill, and I wanted to help, and they felt the energy, or whatever you want to call it, and I just took it as part of my life, and I let it go and did my nursing and whatever.
And this was where, in Eugene?
No, it was all in LA.
Okay.
In the LA area.
All right.
Santa Monica and Los Angeles. And then when I moved up here 20 years ago, I had a much more physical contact with this wonderful green earth that we have here. I loved it. And I allowed myself to become more involved within the earth energies that are out here, which I call being able to help people to find themselves.
Okay.
And to be able to look at someone and know, I always can feel when there's something not quite right. And usually I have questions that lead up to that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, we're talking, and that's my chance then at that point, if I feel it's okay, to offer suggestions about things that they can do to help themselves. And that's how all of my classes started and my book. I started writing the book in 2009. I was writing another book. 5 chapters in, woke up one morning and said, this is not the way it's supposed to go. I'm supposed to write something else totally. Leave it go. So I did. 2 days later, I started writing Wisdom from the Heart. It just flowed from me. And at that time, I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, I actually did this. I made intentions for this back in 2000, and taken me this long, but I'm finally there. Did the book, was ready to publish, self-publish. And when I did, within a few months of that, I started becoming ill, and for 2 years I had quite a few health issues. In 2012, then it was time to publish, and it was the right time because then I was healthy and I could do something with this. I have 3 daughters, and one of my daughters said, "Mom, I hate self-help books or inspirational books that don't tell you what to do. They just tell you stuff, and then they don't tell you how to do that." So I wrote each chapter. And then I wrote affirmative things to do after that, like what I call life empowerment skills.
And you teach classes in that?
Yes, I do.
So,
Yeah, I do.
Tell us all about this stuff. Where do you teach them? How do you get your students and so forth?
How I do that is primarily from the community, because I'm a good marketer too. That's part of what I used to do as a job. And I talk to people. And so many people today are searching for another way to do things. They realize that the way they've been doing them has gotten them the same results over and over. And it's time to change it. But if you don't know how to change what you do and how you live and what you say and how you come from your heart or just from your head, you can't make those changes. So I started these classes about 15 years ago. And I teach them all over, wherever there's a place for me, a room for me, or whatever. I just finished teaching a 2-hour class near my home at Sheldon Park, and I had a wonderful time, wonderful students that were there, wonderful people who are everybody who's looking for something. I'm not there to, I don't provide the something, I provide the way to find something. And my classes just seem to come about. I mean, I always know when it's the right time. I'm teaching another one. The 2-hour class I did on Saturday is not normal for me. Usually it's a 7-hour workshop. And then I have all kinds of life skills and things that I offer people during that particular class.
And you do energy work also?
Yes, I do energy work.
Do you do energy work on the person while they're, or the people in your class while they're there, or?
I take people into probably a 5-minute quiet time, meditation time, to bring everybody to the same place, to get everybody in a peaceful place, and then bring that energy back into the classroom as we start. but yes, I do involve a lot of different things. Some are Native American things, some are Celtic, some are working with crystal energy, and I'm one of those people that crystals speak to me, so I really enjoy that part of it. But all of that helps me to teach what I teach, because it's not me that's really doing the teaching. I just let the energy flow through, and I listen. I listen a lot.
So in working with the different stones, gemstones and stuff like that, what does each one do?
Oh my goodness, I teach a class on that.
Okay.
I teach a class on that.
You don't have cliff notes, right?
No. There are ones that I use. I can talk about that.
Okay.
Amethyst is very specific to me. I always either wear a piece of amethyst, or I have my own crystals that I wear, smaller ones that I wear on a chain. It's a teaching crystal for me. If part of the Native American work and First Nation work that I've accomplished has been using the ones for the North, the shamans of the North, the elders of the North, the wisdom workers of the North, and that is amethyst is part of that. I think what I've done, somebody asked me this the other day, and what I realize I've done is I've put everything together from different cultures and the chakras and all of these things so that they're all in one. And then I can show somebody, well, this is what's happening with you. I feel this from you, but you need to take care of this, and teach them how to do that rather than do it for somebody.
So how did you make that transition from registered nurse to woo-woo?
As we were talking about, yes. What I found was that I knew that I had the background. It was necessary for me to have a technical, traditional medical background, because there are many times when I'm doing work with somebody and with their energy, I will see things or feel things, and I do tell them to go see a doctor, because it is not up to me to do that or to make diagnoses or any of that. And they're so surprised. I say, it'll probably turn out to be nothing, but just go see them. Do me a favor for that.
Right.
And I just started doing it, and then I realized that for me, the kind of work I do, when I call it energy work, is far more important than what I was doing before, because I did that. I did the nursing work for 35 years, and I did all the traditional work and had all the, moving up the ladder, so to speak, and doing everything. But this gave me really joy. That gave me joy too, but this is different. This is so real.
Have you ever heard of a woman named Rachel Naomi Riemann?
Somewhere down the line, yes, the name is very familiar.
She's a doctor, an MD, but she heads up the Commonweal program in Northern California. But she was on the staff at the medical school at Stanford. And on her way up. But she didn't know if it was not feeling right to her. She felt like she needed to be doing something
that
different,
is
bigger.
Sort of how I felt.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, one day she got this piece of paper on her desk, and they were going to put her in charge of the faculty at Stanford, and she didn't know what to do, so she decided to fly to Florida and visit her mom. And she had a drawing in one of the Rumi the poet, the
Yes,
Sufi
I
poet,
love this.
and it was an eye. It was just an eye, and so she tore it out of this book, and she had it framed, and she knew she'd catch some flack if she put it in her office at work, so she kept it in her study at home, and she was always fascinated by it. So she's in Florida, goes for a walk with her mom visiting, and there's a lady with her little granddaughter over here, and she's drawn and made finger puppets. And so Rachel's mother sees that, and she goes, "Oh, some things never change." She said, "Remember when you were a little girl, you used to draw an eye on each hand, and you'd close your eyes, and you'd put them up like this, and you'd say, 'Now I can really see you.'"
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was what made her decision, that she needed to go do something else. I don't know how it made that decision for her, but it did.
Well, that's not quite the same, but similar to.
Yeah.
I made the change when I realized that I no longer wanted to do the traditional things, and all the shots and the pills and the things that we do are so invasive, but we always forget about the spirit of the person.
Yeah.
We lose the spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to touch on. And I felt every day my spirit was getting stronger and stronger to understand others. And that understanding couldn't be in the same place as the traditional medicine. It had to be on its own. And I think that probably 2000, I would say probably 2000, 1999 or 2000 is when I just made a switch over and realized that somehow I needed to utilize the gift that I had. And I really didn't know how that was going to show up, but I had no idea. And then I had a chance to go and see so many of these wonderful people. And from each, as we know, every book isn't totally for everybody.
Right.
The book will be a piece of it that we each take maybe or something. And I've done that where I've taken maybe a chapter out of a whole book and said, I don't really care for the book, but I like that chapter.
Yeah.
And every time I went to see someone, like whether it was Deepak Chopra or Wayne Dyer or anybody.
Carolyn Mays.
Carolyn
mentioned.
Mays,
Yeah.
absolutely. When I saw them, they would say something and it would speak to me right then and there. But I noticed it was always to my heart. It wasn't about the head. It wasn't about how many other books they had written or whatever they said. What they said, they were speaking from their heart at that moment, and I took it in.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt that my heart was what was guiding me, because that's how I see people.
Yeah.
I love people.
Well, you can split the world up kind of like in two categories, head people and heart people. One's not really better than the other, but they are different. But over time, when people get on a path of exploration,
Yes.
they change from the head to the heart. And it's a significant change, and you know when it happens. I mean, you can almost see it in them. It's different. And I say one's not better than the other, but actually I like one better than the other. So, Anyway, if you're just tuning in, lucky for you, I'm Jody C. This is Backpage, and we're visiting with Paula May. She's from Eugene, and she's written Wisdom from the Heart, and she also does classes on self-empowerment,
Life empowerment.
and what else?
Oh, that's a catch-all term for learning who you are basically and being an authentic person.
Yeah. Yeah. Authenticity. So, what went wrong with you? You said you had life-threatening
I had
health
several
issues.
Yes, I had several things happening to me all at the same time. I considered myself very healthy, happy, dancing. I love to dance, ballroom dancing, all of that. But all of a sudden, I was having some issues. But of course, I'm busy. I was on every committee in town. I was doing either chairing or a member, and I didn't have time for this, so I didn't listen. Everything I tell people in the book, I had to learn the hard way.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that why we do what we do,
Yeah.
to learn?
Yeah.
And so I found out that I had some heart issues that I didn't have a clue about. And at that point, I had needed a hip surgery, and they couldn't perform it because they
of your
thought,
heart?
yeah. I mean, it was so bad that I had to talk to my girls about life after.
Yeah.
And that was a very difficult thing for me because we're so close. And when I got to that point, I thought, well, I just have to go with this. I know that I can get better. I already know that. And my philosophies in life don't lead me to say, I can't do this. And it's like, okay, how do I solve this? Do what they say, do everything. I waited to have the surgery and I couldn't. They wouldn't do it. And so finally, and it was getting harder for me to move around. And eventually, when they decided I could do it, one of the top docs said, okay, she's fine. She can have the surgery now. 2 days later, I went into emergency surgery and almost died. And so that was a major wake-up call for me. It was nothing anybody could have prevented or anything. Went from that and being in the hospital for a month.
Did you have a heart attack?
No, it was something totally different, and all involving the abdominal wall.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh my goodness, that's when we talked. I had said I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to be done.
Yeah.
That wasn't the plan. I was told that I needed to be here. I needed to come back because I had something to share. Because I don't talk to people. I don't teach people. I share what I know, and only what I know. and they can take it how they want to do it.
So you say you got the message? Did you hear a voice or see a,
How did I do that?
person or an entity, or what happened?
I felt myself wanting, I was done.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I mentally did that. I mentally made up my mind because I could feel that. Later, when I talked to my youngest daughter, who was with me through the whole thing here, she said people would call and they would ask how you were. And I said, I don't know if she's decided to live or die yet. Because she was really tuned into where I was going. I felt such a sense of peace, so much peace, and just so much of a warmth and a receiving. I guess I felt like I was being received into this, almost like going back into the womb or something, a really safe place, really, it's so peaceful and beautiful, very silvery kind of thing. And when I was told to come back, it wasn't like people think, sometimes it is for them, but for me it wasn't like a popping back in. It was like, I felt like I was living in two worlds at that time. And maybe that was because I was trying to make up my mind what I was going to do. My heart, really, rather than the mind. And I felt like I lived in two places, that I had a foot in each world. And it was my choice to do that, because we all have free will. There's no entity that makes us do anything.
But you didn't hear a voice that said, everybody who's supposed to be here now, take a step forward. Not so fast there, Paula.
I heard, you need to go back.
Okay.
That's what I heard. And it was so soft. It was as if it was just a whisper of like an angel's wing kind of thing, that knowledge that you knew that you were not supposed to go away.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I was reading one of Bernie Siegel's books years ago.
I do know him.
And there was a family, 4 daughters, and their mother was dying. And the youngest one was especially having a difficult time with it, you know, and she said, you know, Mom, if you die, I want to die because I don't want to be here without you. And the mom passed, and that night, or the next night, she appeared in the daughter's room and sat on the edge of the bed, and she said, this is against the rules. But she said, this is a wonderful place, but I can't enjoy it worrying about you doing something stupid. And then she left, you know. So and it was very comforting to this daughter, because she knew that her mom was okay and not that far away, and, you know.
And it's happened. I mean, my whole life has been like that. My grandmother had the same gifts. My mother had the gifts. I have the gifts. My 3 daughters have it.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's more of it's a gentleness, I think, is how we live. I think of the poet Thich Nhat Hanh, he talks about walking gently on the earth. I feel like that's how I do things. That's how I live my life.
Yeah.
And I've taught my daughters the same. And so each of them are in a different place with it, but they all have that gift. It's about connecting with people. Because we talk about a lot in philosophies about being one. We're all one. And we are, with everything and everyone around us. And if we're all one, then we need to treat each other with far more honor and respect than what we do.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you've seen this show before. You know how
Yes.
we end this show every single time.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah, which is good, because we are all in this together. You know,
we are.
Whether we like it or not, we better learn to get along, because here we are.
Well, and we have a way to do that. We have ways to do that. But I think we all have to, everybody comes to that conclusion in their own time, that they're ready for that change, as you talked about, even changing a path of awareness and going in a different place.
You know, many years ago, when I worked in rock and roll radio in Dallas, Texas. But I got Rolfed, and it changed my life, you know, and so I decided I wanted to be a Rolfer. And there was kind of a big uproar at the radio station, because I was one of the dinosaurs, you know, been there a long time. And I loved my job, and I was good at my job, and I adored the people I worked with. And my friend Wally especially was like, well, you don't want to do that, you know, and so I thought, well, you know, maybe they're right. And so I don't know where I was, but I lunch, I guess, and I came back, and there was a magazine on my desk. I've never seen one like it. I've never seen one since. But I just picked it up, and I was kind of thumbing through it, and I just pitched it on my desk, and it flopped open. And there was a saying right down here that said, If you do not risk changing when the time is right, you will probably be forced to change when you're least prepared for it.
Wonderful
Yeah.
saying.
So there was a guy who worked downstairs at Channel 8 who did calligraphy. And I cut this out and ran downstairs and asked him to do it for me, and he did. I put it in a frame. It's been in my office, for the past 33 years.
And it makes sense.
It does make sense.
I'm a risk taker.
Yeah.
I always have been. I think that's what made me good in my traditional job. I could run organizations and not have a problem.
Yeah.
But I took it into my private life too, in the sense of making this decision that I would leave the traditional behind. And yet I still carry that expertise. That didn't go away.
Right.
It's still part of me. It's just not who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what my class is coming up in July, is on the powerful words I am. Who are you?
Mm-hmm. Now, if people want to sign up for your classes, how do they do that?
They can email me at Paula May at nu-world.com.
Okay.
They could make a comment on my website, which is www.wingedheartsong.com. And there's my phone number is on both places as well.
We're visiting with Paula May about her book, Wisdom from the Heart, which is this little book right here with lots of good tips and not really exercises, but it's not really even a workbook.
It's it's kind of skills, life empowerment skills to learn.
Which are quite good, actually, I mean, we can all learn how to do this stuff. So what's next for you? What's coming up for you? And where can people get this book? If
they can go to lulu.com and go where the button says to buy a book, and then go put my book in, and it'll direct them.
Okay. Anyway, so what's on the agenda, on the horizon for you?
I'm about halfway through a second book, which is going to be called Chronicles of a Woman, and no is not an option. It's about my life and how it's a memoir, but it's not life to death kind of memoir. It's about a particular part of my life where throughout my life I was told I was too stupid. I could never be a nurse because I didn't know math enough. I wasn't a science person, and I had all this wonderful support to not do anything. And it just turned me around. There was something within me that just said, no way. I'm going to do this because this is what I want to do. I've always wanted to do it, and I'm going to do it. And I'm taking people through those processes, which in our world today are still there, but they're not as adamant as they were in those days, where people could just crush someone's ideas about a career or about what you want for yourself, because they themselves, I realize now, were never authentic. They never found out who they were, and they didn't know how to teach that or show it to anyone else either. If you don't love yourself, you can't share that love with anybody.
Yeah.
And so I do that. I'm still in a writing class, which I dearly love. I think I've been with Gail's class. This is the 5th time around, and always learning something new. And now we've got a book we're publishing for that class as well.
What?
Let's see. Gosh, I don't have it with me right now. We're still in the proofing stages of the title and everything. But it's out of the Campbell Senior Center in Eugene.
Okay.
And we're called the Campbell Writers. And it's an anthology of different stories that we've been writing through the times that we've all been together. Most of us, there are 14 of us at this point, and there's 8 of us that have all been together through 5 classes.
Wow. I used to get together with 2 friends on Tuesday mornings at a coffee shop, and one person would bring an egg timer, and we would, sit and write for like 15 minutes about the first time you ever ate asparagus, or something.
Yeah, right.
And it was astonishing. And the idea was to just go, start writing. When we turned the thing over, start writing and don't stop. Don't try to edit, don't anything. And it was astonishing the stuff that would come out of you. I mean, I remember Phyllis sitting there, crying because she'd written a story about, carburetor that wound up talking about how much she missed her mom, Because it made her think of the time their carburetor was messed up when she was a little kid, and she remembered her mother, taking the motor apart. I mean, whose mother could do that? But hers could.
But there was no pressure.
No.
And there's no pressure. And that's the way this workshop is always.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. And we just write. Sometimes she gives us an item to write about, and sometimes she doesn't. And she'll say, just bring back anything you decided to write. But as she goes along, she's got you making sure have you written your foreword, have you done all this stuff, well, and your final chapter. And the group is so good because what they do is they help each other. We all help each other, and there's no critiquing and criticisms. It's more of, I wanted to hear more about such and such about what you wrote.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, and you write that on your notes. So we've really have a close relationship.
Well, this particular exercise where we just start writing and don't stop, Natalie Goldberg talked about that in her book, Writing Down the Bones, and then Wild Mind, Living the Writer's Life.
Yes, I've
and
heard of that.
It's to train your brain so that when it's time to sit down and write, you can just sit down and write. You don't have to spend a lot of time banging your head on the keyboard or, becoming an alcoholic trying to
get through it all.
Yeah, and so it just makes the whole thing a lot easier. So you're trained to just sort of have a switch that when it's time to write, that's what you do.
And we do that too. I mean, we go through reading, and each of us reading what we had written, and then talking about it and whatever. And then it's time, and she'll look at the clock and she'll say, okay, you got 10 minutes, and there you go, and you write whatever. Here are 3 things you can write on, any one of these, or just pick something of your own. And it's amazing, the stuff that comes out. And all of us have written things, we've shared things in that class. You learn these wonderful things about people and how courageous and brave they've been in their lifetimes.
Yeah.
But maybe they've never had a chance to say that before.
Well, listen, thank you so much.
Thank
We're going to have
you.
to saddle up and ride on out of here. They've given us the high sign.
Okay.
I've been visiting with Paula May about her book, Wisdom from the Heart. I'm Jody C. This program's Back Page. Join us again next time as we take another peek at the back page. And remember, we're all in this together. More the same than different. Do your best.